Hi guys, my name is Paige. Welcome to my channel, Paperbacks and Lattes, and today I want to tell you the books that I read in February. So this is my February wrap up. I know it's kind of coming later. I meant to film this earlier, but it just didn't happen. But now I'm finally getting my February wrap up to you guys. This is all the books that I read in February. I read a total of 25 books and I DNF'd one book. So I read almost all of the books but authored by Black authors in the month of February because I participated in the Black Author Readathon. Only one book that I didn't read by a Black author, and that was before like I had set a TBR up and I didn't realize that this readathon was going on, and so I just kind of dropped everything and read all the other books that I read in February were by Black authors. So anyway, that was just something that I wanted to do, and that was something very important to me, so that I made that decision to do that. So the first book I read was Love Beyond Words by Emma Scott. I rated this 3 stars. I usually rate Emma Scott books a lot higher than this, but this one was just an okay book for me. This book is just extremely forgettable. I actually just had to look it up on Goodreads to even try to remember what it was about. So this girl is going to college and she is working at a coffee shop, and she lives above the coffee shop in like an apartment that the owners have let her stay in. And there is this guy that keeps coming in the coffee shop that she is very attracted to and infatuated with, and he is of course infatuated with her because he keeps coming in, and he writes in his notebook like every time he's there. And then finally he asked her to come sit with him like while it was slow because it was like late at night, and to drink coffee with him and like eat a pastry. And so she starts doing this, you know, almost every night, and she lets him know that she is, you know, she's a very avid reader, and she has this author that she, you know, is her favorite author. She loves his books. She reads them over and over again. And the more she gets to know him, the more they are, you know, like each other, and they begin a relationship, but he is harboring secrets that he does reveal to her. But there is a lot of conflict in this book, a lot, and you just see it for a mile long coming up to it, and they're for reasons that are like, if they would just talk to each other, these things could be resolved. But there is a lot of conflict of them trying to be together and somebody standing in their way. And so, I don't know. It was an okay book. I rated it 3 stars. I could take it or leave it. The next book I read was Truth or Dare by Danielle Allen. I rated this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. This is about a group of guys and girls who were best friends in college, and, you know, they stayed in touch, you know, till even years later. And they are at one of their weddings. One of the girl and guys are actually getting married to each other out of the group. Like, they have been together forever, and they're finally getting married, and it's like this destination wedding, and they are all there together for it. And then the girl and the guy of this story, I did not write down any names for this video, so I usually have their names prepared, but I didn't do that this time, so I don't know any of their names. But they all of a sudden see each other in a different light because they are older now and they are very attracted to each other, and so they start this fling on like their vacation. So this was a really great book. I really enjoyed it. The next one I read is Just One More by Jodie Slaughter. I greatly enjoyed this one. This one I rated 5 stars. This is like a Valentine's novella. This was about a girl and a guy who actually take the same Uber ride. It's late at night and she doesn't want to take the bus or whatever she normally takes, and he just so happens to take the same Uber, and there's like another passenger in the Uber that gets sick, and so they, you know, get out of the ride early, and he's like, well, come on, let me, you know, let's go get something to eat because it's late at night and it's on Valentine's Day. He had just left this date, and she has this, her like routine that she usually does on Valentine's Day because they both love the holiday, even though they are single, that they celebrate it in different ways. And so they go out to eat, and then they go back to his place because they are very much attracted to each other, and she stays the night. And then she ends up staying like the whole weekend with him. And they, you know, go back to living their lives, but, you know, they are very much attracted to each other. And this was a short book, but it was so good. I loved it so much. I love that there wasn't, they could be together even like the first night that they met because they were attracted to each other, and they were mature enough to know that, you know, it didn't have to lead to more, but it did in this book, of course, because it's a happily ever after. But I really enjoyed that. It's like, oh, well, we can't be together. Well, no, because you're an adult. You just do it because you want to. And you're safe about it, and there's nothing wrong with it. So, really loved that one. The next one I read is The Babysitter by Jack Harbon. I rated this one 3 stars, only because I wish it had more plot to it, because it would have made more of a, I just wanted more of it. That's really what it was. It's about this couple who they you know, hired a babysitter, this guy, to watch their little girl when they have dates and other events that they go to, that they have to have a babysitter for their child. But they end up splitting up and getting a divorce, and the dad and the babysitter are attracted to each other, and they get together. So really enjoyed this book, but I just wish it was longer, had more plot. That would have been really interesting, but I rated it 3 stars. The next one I read is Flow by Kennedy Ryan. This is the first book in the Grip trilogy series. This is actually stated as like the prequel to the series, but you definitely have to read this one first, because if you didn't read it first, you just would kind of be confused. This kind of sets the background for the main 2 characters in the series, and I totally love this one. I rated it 5 stars. So this is about Bristol. She is coming, she's like she's 19, she's in her first year of college, and she goes to stay with her brother for spring break because she hasn't seen her brother in years after he was emancipated from his parents. He is like this child genius, this prodigy, and he eventually was emancipated from them because of how much they put on him to become this star when he was so young. And then, of course, he got addicted to prescription, some kind of prescription pills, and they wanted, you know, it was their fault, his parents' fault. And so he decided to become emancipated with the help of his uncle, and that is who he lives with. And Bristol has missed her brother. It's actually her twin brother, and she goes to see him, and he is busy the day that she arrives at the airport. So he sends his best friend Grip to go pick her up, and this was the beginning of their story. They spent a lot of time with each other over this period of time that she is with them, and they really talk about a lot of deep issues, and they get to know each other very well. They're both very attracted to each other. And then that book kind of leaves off, I want to say a cliffhanger, but it doesn't end up in a happily ever after because it is a trilogy. So something happens to where she leaves with a broken heart because she thinks that a situation occurred that didn't really occur. Essentially, she thought that he cheated on his girlfriend with her. You definitely have to read the other 2 books to get, you know, to read the full story, but this was an amazing first book in a trilogy. I loved it so much, and I of course rated it 5 stars. The next one that I read is So Sweet by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is about these 2 girls who are living together. They're roommates, and they both lost their jobs, and so they are signing up on this website to be, you know, like for girls for sugar daddies to try to make some money until they can land another job. And she goes, the main character of this book, she goes to this event to mingle with like the sugar daddies and try to find one that's compatible and whatnot. But she's really not wanting to do this. This is not her cup of tea. And so she just kind of like sneaks out and goes to this room where there's nobody else. But there is this guy there, and he's just kind of like, you know, what are you doing back here? And she's like, well, this is more of my friends type of thing, and the only reason I'm here is just I need money because rent's due and I need money. So this is like her last option. And he is very intrigued with her. Of course, he is attracted to her and he's very intrigued with her, and he tells her that he is the owner of this, you know, website, which he's also the owner of. He's like billionaire rich, so he is very wealthy. And he asked her if, you know, she would be, you know, his sugar baby, and she agrees. And this is the start of their sugar baby sugar daddy relationship. It was a really good book. I rated it 5 stars. I really enjoyed their relationship and how, even though it's an unconventional one, but it worked for them. And then I read Rafe by Rebekah Weatherspoon. This is about a male nanny. He's between jobs, and then he hears about this doctor who needs somebody to watch her twin girls because her babysitter just up and left with no warning. And so he steps in to be the babysitter for these girls. When he sees her, he's instantly attracted to her, and he tells her that. He says, hey, I just want to let you know that I'm attracted to you, but I won't let this, you know, hinder my nanny capabilities, you know. And she admits to him that she's attracted to him also. And her girls love him, and he's excellent at what he does. And then eventually a relationship does happen between them. And this was such a sweet story. I loved it so much. I rated this one 5 stars as well. And then I went back to I don't know what series it's called, but it's the one with the sugar baby and sugar daddies. And so the next one is So Right, and it just continues on with their relationship. Now their relationship has progressed from being sugar baby sugar daddy to just, you know, boyfriend and girlfriend, because he loves her. He, you know, wants to be with her, and of course she feels the same way. And so they kind of leave that arrangement behind to progress further into their relationship. And this is her, you know, she's changing friendships, she's changing jobs, there's a lot that's happening in her life that's changing because she is with this man, and he is much older than her, but she, you know, they love each other for who they are. And then I read the 3rd book in that series, and it's so for real. And this was the conclusion kind of to their story. This just delves further into the relationship, getting engaged, getting married, and whatnot, and all that. Such a sweet romance series. I rated the first one 5 stars, and then I rated the other 2 4 stars. The next book I read was Fit by Rebekah Weatherspoon. I rated this one 3 stars. This one I didn't love as quite as much as her other books, but this was about a girl who she had went with her coworker to this like exercise class, and she is overweight, and the class about nearly killed her. Like, it was intense, too intense for her. And the instructor of the class noticed this and told her that, you know, she recommends her going to this other instructor because he, you know, is better like with beginners. He's not as hard on people as she is. And so she actually, you know, gets together with this instructor to begin, you know, workout classes and sessions. And he immediately tells her that he is attracted to her and that he is into BDSM because he is a dom. They could include this in with their workouts, you know, like it could be an additional thing to this. That was just the part that really did not sell me on this thing. What I could see it happening where the longer they're like working out together, the longer that, you know, they spend time around each other, that a relationship could evolve, any type of relationship. But just automatically saying this, like the first time he sees her, was just a turn off for me. It was just tacky in my opinion, and I just didn't really like it. I probably would rate it a 2-star, but I went ahead and rated it a 3-star because overall, of course, the writing is good because it's for Rebekah Weatherspoon, but I just didn't love this book. The next book I read was Xeni by Rebekah Weatherspoon. I love this one. I read it, rated it 5 stars. This is like a marriage of convenience trope, and it was so well done. This girl, her aunt has just died, and she is there because her aunt pretty much leaves everything to her, and she has to go, you know, well, of course she's there for her aunt's like funeral or memorial, but she's also there to deal with, you know, like the will and what she has, and she was left her aunt's house, so she has to, you know, go through everything and try to figure out what to do with everything. And there she meets this Scottish guy, because he's actually plays the bagpipes at her aunt's like memorial service, and it was kind of like a funny song that he played, which she thought was kind of highly inappropriate, but she actually kind of laughed. But it was just something that her aunt, it was just her aunt's personality, and that she had instructed him to play this because he lived in the same town where her aunt did, and they became friends. But then her aunt also put it in her will that they had to marry each other to get all this money, because this money, he would also be acquiring some money which would help pay some debts off that he owed to his father, and that was kind of being held over his head. And so they got married to each other to, you know, get the money, because I think they have to stay married for a year. But then they were planning to divorce after that year. But the more time they spend around each other, the more they like each other, you know, they become friends, and then there's more that happens, and it was just a sweet story. I loved it so much. This one was also part of, you could see characters from when I read Rafe, because Xeni is actually the best friend of the main character in Rafe. The next book I read is Go Deep by Rilzy Adams. This was so cute. I really liked it. This was about these best friends. They had been best friends since high school, I think. I can't remember how long they had been best friends, but they really couldn't maintain a long relationship with somebody else because everybody was threatened because of their relationship or their friendship. Their friendship ran so deep and so strong, but she is an author, a writer, and for, you know, steamy books, and she had just lost inspiration. And what made her kind of hit rock bottom was these horrible negative reviews on her latest book. And she went to him for help, and he was like, hey, maybe I can inspire you, kind of like as a joke. And they, you know, the more they both got to thinking about it and was like, you know, we could do this, but she was so afraid of ruining their friendship. But they went ahead and got together, and they were like fireworks. They just, you know, of course they love each other already because they're best friends. They would do anything for each other, and this just like completed their relationship with each other. It turned out that they were meant to be together, like they're soulmates. After I read that book, I had to read the novella that followed that book, which is Go Deeper by Rilzy Adams, and this just continues on with their relationship and when they get married. I cried in this book because the author recommends you listen to this song while they are speaking their vows to each other at their wedding, and I did that. It was just like, oh my goodness, the words that they spoke to each other in their vows, and then listening to this song on top of it. I cried because it was just so lovely, and you could just feel like the love they had for each other. But if you read Go Deep, I recommend reading Go Deeper afterwards because it just like completes their relationship. First, I rated both of those 5 stars. And then I read Once Ghosted, Twice Shy by Alyssa Cole. This is a sapphic romance, and they meet. These 2 girls meet, and they have like 3 days together because one has to leave, like her job is ending. And they have this incredible time together, and they fall for each other so hard during this time. But then it comes to the end, and one of them just says, you know, like, bye, you know, gotta go. And the other one was really hurt by this because she thought that they had just, you know, had this great relationship in a short amount of time, and that she thought that they meant more to each other than what the other one led on. And they run into each other months later, and they're still very hurt by this, but they start to hang out again, and things are revealed to why, you know, she just kind of suddenly up and left, and they continue on with their relationship. This was a kind of a shorter book as well, but it was so good. I rated this one 5 stars as well. So just ignore any children screaming in the background. They are playing. So the next one I read was Her Sweet Alpha by Thayer King. I needed to have like a paranormal romance, was one of the, you know, prompts on this board that the Black Arthur Readathon had. And I found this one, and it turned out to be so good. So there is this town where it was accidentally known, and now everybody knows that there are wolf shifters, and there are mixed feelings about this. Some people are really afraid of the wolf shifters, and there are some people who are very curious about the wolf shifters and hang out where, you know, the wolf shifters are. And there is the leader of this particular pack of this area. He is nearing his 30th birthday, which is like the end of when you can have a mate. After, if you reach 30 and you haven't had a mate, then you know, just don't work there anymore. You can't reproduce or anything like that. So he has just, he could have had offers, you know, he could have just chosen a mate, but he wanted to wait for his one like true mate, his fated mate. And there's this girl who is working in the next town over. She works at this restaurant that, you know, like her family owns, and he comes to the restaurant one night because he works in construction, and they're working on this project in this town. He is at this restaurant, and he smells her, and he's like, wait, oh my goodness, something clicks in him where he's like, that is my mate. And he instantly claims her, well, you know, like telling everybody, that's my mate. And she's just like, whoa, buddy, I don't know you. Get away from me. And her ex-boyfriend is there, and of course, like, he tries to lay claim to her, and of course, that does not bode well for him. And so she has to like be like the peacekeeper between both of them, and it's just, he is like, that you are my woman and you are coming with me. But of course she is not having that. And so he spends, you know, the next however long that he's in that town, like courting her. Even he kind of stays away for a while, you know, to give her space, but he's always calling her, he's always sending her things and letting her know that, you know, she's his. And they form up this relationship between them. She realizes that she is his mate, and she can feel the tug within herself too. And their relationship progresses, and, you know, they are with each other. And this was just a very cute paranormal romance, and I really liked it a lot. The next one I read was Grumpy Jake by Melissa Blue. This is about a single father who brings his son to, you know, school, and his son's teacher is I think it's in kindergarten, and she's the kindergarten teacher. She kind of already has a hatred for the father because he has been around. Like, he has been with a lot of the school, you know, female employees, but he always just kind of drops them around the sixth month mark if they get that far, and he doesn't really let anybody in. And so she is kind of not really liking him right off the bat. But it kind of starts off with an enemies to lovers vibe until they start getting to know each other, and the more they hang out with each other. And of course she is around him because of his son who is in her class, and then they start to date outside of that. It was a really cute short story. I listened to this one on audio, and it was so cute. I loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. The next one I read was The Wreckage of Us by Brittany C. Cherry. Of course, I had to read a Brittany C. Cherry book. This one has been on my TBR for a while, and I'm so glad I finally got it read. This is about a girl. She is kicked out of her mom and stepdad's house. And her stepdad is pretty horrible. He's like the drug dealer in town, and her mother is hooked on the drugs as well. But she's also pregnant, and she's trying to take care of her pregnant mom. But, you know, her stepdad has kind of turned her mother against her. So they kick her out, and she goes to work at this farm, and she ends up, staying the nights in like this like little shack on the farm. And the owner of the farm, he notices this and gets his grandson to offer her a place to stay in his house in the guest room. And so that is what happens, even though they don't really get along with each other because they knew each other. Well, she knew of him in school. He's kind of like a playboy type of character. And she is a really hard worker because she wants to become something more. She wants to kind of leave her broken life behind and become more. And she's also worried about her mom. She needs help try to take care of her, her sibling that is yet to be born. And this was such an emotional book. They both carry a lot of baggage, of course, because it's Brittany C. Cherry. But he is an up-and-coming rock star, and there is things that get in the way of their relationship, but they ultimately find a way to be together. And I love this one. Of course, I rated it 5 stars. The next one I read was Loving Mr. Daniels by Brittany C. Cherry. Had to keep on reading Brittany C. Cherry, but this is a girl who she actually had, she's a year behind in school, so she's actually 19 in her senior year. And she is at this bar one night because she is there to listen to this band that is playing. And the lead singer of the band comes over to talk to her, and they, instantly form an attraction to each other. And they get to talking, and they both realize that they like the same things. And he asks for her phone number, and, they exchange phone numbers, and they want to meet each other again. And then she goes to school, I guess like a few days after that, and she realizes that he is her teacher there at school. And when they realize this, of course, he's like, wait, I didn't realize that she was this type of student. Like, he thought she was a college student. And of course it's forbidden because it is, even though he's only like 3 years older than her, and he's her teacher, but they fight for a way to be together. Like, they fight at first to try not to be together, but of course it's inevitable, and they are together. But there is a lot of things that are stand in their way of being together, but this one was just truly remarkable, and I rated it 5 stars. The next one I read was Grip by Kennedy Ryan. I had to continue reading on in the Grip trilogy. This continues on with Bristol and Grip. This is like 8 or 9 years later, And even though that the issue, because she had left before because she thought that he had cheated on his girlfriend with her, that did get resolved. But she had seen her own parents, her own dad cheat on her mom. And so she is just really doesn't, like, she doesn't believe in love. Like, how can one person be dedicated to another person all of their lives? And she doesn't really think that love is true because she's never really seen it in her own life. And even though Grip is relentless, he asks her all the time to go out with him and to be with him. And he works so hard to get her to be with him. Like, he just loves her. And when she tells him finally, when she gives in to him and she finally, you know, puts her hands in his and trusts him that he will stay faithful to her and love her. And it is a beautiful love story. Such a beautiful love story. The love that Grip has for Bristol is just so beautiful. I loved it so much. I rated it 5 stars. Then I had to read the third book in the trilogy, which ended up being my favorite book of the month. Still was the perfect conclusion to this trilogy. This continues on with Grip and Bristol's love story and them getting engaged and getting married and everything that comes with it and obstacles that they go through. Because I cried in this book. I cried so much because they go through a lot, but their love stands like the test of time. It holds up even through everything they go through. They depend on each other. They stay faithful to each other. They don't let petty things get in the way. And he's an activist, and I really enjoyed that part of the book. Delving into these deep issues that are, you know, that we face today, and having him stand up for the Black community. And she is white, and there's even struggles with his family accepting her because they feel like he should be with a Black girl. And it was just, there were so many elements in this series, in this book, that I loved. I could just sit here for like 3 hours and tell you about this series. So I'm going to try to wrap it up quickly. But guys, if you haven't read anything by Kennedy Ryan, I highly recommend the Grips trilogy by her, because it was amazing, amazing, amazing. And I loved it so much. And then one of the prompts for the Black Arthur Readathon was a romance graphic novel. And I've never read one before, and so I purchased one on Kindle, and it's called Bingo Love by, well, the author's name is not on the cover, and I don't have it written down, so I will have it listed here, but it's Bingo Love. And this was such a cute story. This was about 2 girls. They became best friends in school, and then later on, you know, like in high school, they realized that they were in love with each other, and their parents caught them kissing. And so they sent them away, or one got sent away. They were both, you know, this was a time where a relationship of that sort was not acceptable. And so it was very sad because they both lost each other, and they were kind of forced to be, you know, have these lives that they really didn't want, but they did eventually. You know, they were both married, they both had children, and it was a long, you know, like 20 years down the road. And they met each other again, and it was around this bingo night that they, you know, had originally met, that their grandmothers had, or their mothers or grandmothers had, you know, attended when they were children. And they saw each other, and they realized that, you know, they were still in love with each other. They had been pining for each other all of these years, and they were finally able to have the lives with each other that they wanted to. And this was such a good book. I highly recommend it. It's for anybody who hasn't read a romance graphic novel. This is the only one I've read, but it was so good. I rated it 5 stars. Then I read Haunted by Christina C. Jones, and I rated this one 3 stars. This one was just weird. I didn't get into it. Maybe it was because it was audiobook, and the series does progress on, and I haven't, I don't know if I will, but it just was weird because it was this girl who met this guy, and it was like they knew each other from a different lifetime that she didn't remember. Something was, I don't know if it was a spell or what it was. It was so confusing to realize, what happened, like what they were. And like they were almost immortal, not quite immortal, but almost. And they had been together like in the way back in the past. And, he came to find her, and they were like always meant to be together, but she had to learn this, and finally she came to remember who she was, and it was just not that great. I mean, the story was captivating because I was like always like trying to figure out like what their story was, what they were back before, but it just wasn't explained very well to me. I don't know, maybe I was too distracted to figure it out, but I rated it 3 stars. The next book I read was Haven by Rebekah Weatherspoon. This was the book of the month for the Taboo Book Club. This is a BDSM, and this is a girl who, well, the guy hears like this screaming and knocking on his door. He opens the door. There is this girl who is running from the guy who is trying to kill her, and they've already killed her brother. And so she has just witnessed this horrible crime, and they're trying to kill her. He rescues her. She is actually harmed, like, they had hurt her before she was rescued. So she's in the hospital, and he stays with her as long as they can until like the FBI steps in. And they actually, it was these 2 murderers that had been going around doing these killings and all that. This was a romantic suspense, but the romantic suspense part didn't last long. And she went back to her life, but she could not forget him, and she came back to see him, and they had like a week together. And he is a dominant, and he told her that's who he was. That's why relationships had never worked out before with him, because it takes a person, a special type of person, to be into that. And he had just never met the right person. And so she tried it with him, and they really were attracted to each other. And they had gone through this, horrible thing together. And they changed their lives for each other, and it was good. It wasn't the greatest, but it was good, and I rated it 3 stars. And I DNF'd A Bad Boy Captured My Heart by, I think it was Tay Monet. I think part of her name was covered up on my iPad right there, but this book was just not for me. I was having a really hard time reading it because of how it was written. I don't want to say too much because this book was not for me. It was just, I was having a really hard time getting into the plot. I kept going back to it over and over and over, trying to read it, but I just couldn't. And finally I was like, you know what? Instead of doing this, trying to read this book that I'm not into, that is not, I'm not being captivated with, I'm just DNFing it. So I'm not wasting my time on it. So I DNF'd that book. And then I began the other series that Kennedy Ryan wrote, that has Grip and Bristol in it. It's like the intertwining series. I think she actually wrote this one first before she wrote Grip and Bristol's trilogy. But this one was My Soul to Keep by Kennedy Ryan. And this follows Reason, and he is the twin brother of Bristol. And this is his and Kai's story. Kai is from Georgia. She's a Southern girl with an Asian heritage because her mother is Asian. Her dad abandoned her and her mom when she was little. So she has these issues, these abandonment issues from her father. But she's just lost her mother. and she is on the, you know, she moves to LA to try to start her career in singing and dancing and acting. Like, she's got it all. And there she meets Reason, and they, of course, he's immediately infatuated with Kai, and he is not that type of person to do relationships. He's just like, you know, one night stands only and all that. And he's a musical genius. Like, he was playing Beethoven at 3 years old. He was just born with this incredible gift, and he's been famous pretty much all of his life. He has had everything, but he's also been through a lot with his parents, being emancipated from them because they didn't treat him right and they didn't do his career right. But now he has, you know, his career is up again. Bristol, his sister, is his manager, and he wants to be with Kai. But Kai says, no, I am not being with you because I do not want people saying that I got fame from my, you know, from a man. I want to do it on my own and put in the work for it, and not just say that I'm famous because of somebody else. And so she said, but we can be friends. And he says, well, if that's all I can have from you, then that's what it's going to be. And they have this incredible friendship, and he is always there for her. She works like 3 jobs, and he picks her up from her jobs, and stop it. I'm almost done. So he is there for her, and he is always around her to make sure, you know, that she has a ride because he doesn't drive. And that he, you know, takes her out on like these dates, but they're just, you know, friendship dates. And he's just, his end goal is to be with her. Like, he's like, okay, we're friends for now, but later on, this is what I want. And he never lets up. And this is of their beginning of their story. And then I read, which of course I rated 5 stars. And I read the next one, which is Down to My Soul, which just continues on with their story and of them being together because they finally have, you know, come together as a couple. You know, they're in a relationship, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. There are a lot of conflicts with their relationships. The only thing that bugged me about their trilogy was the conflicts you could see plain as day, just because lack of communication for the most part. And then also Reason was a bit of well, of course he's like in this alpha male, but sometimes his jealousy was like overkill. It's like, dude, chill and just take it down a notch. But other than those things about these books, they were really great. I love seeing Grip and Bristol in these books. And Reason, the love he had for Kai was incredible. He would do anything for that girl. And he did prove that time and time again throughout their relationship. So that's the last book that I read for February. And I read a lot of great books in February. I'm so glad that I had these amazing reads. I cannot wait to tell you my reads for March. And yeah, I hope, what did you read in February? Have you read any of these that I've read, and how did you like them? I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.